I'm pretty new in my journey to learn traditional fighting games, and 2XKO is the latest game that I've been playing. As I've been playing more and more, I've been paying more attention to the discussions about the control scheme. Many traditional fighting games use a system of joystick motions to execute special moves, and 2XKO special moves are executed with a direction rather than a particular motion. Many veteran fighting game players are not in love with this newer control scheme. Unlike some other upcoming fighting games like Marvel Tokon or Invincible Versus, 2XKO doesn't include motion inputs alongside simple inputs. This has raised a lot of debates about how fighting games should be controlled and whether the implementation of simple inputs really makes these games easier to control. As I'm in the middle of learning how to use both methods, I thought I'd weigh in on this discussion. The ultimate goal of simple inputs is to lower the execution barrier for fighting games. Many new players might find attempting to learn fighting games frustrating, as the motions needed to perform special moves might be confusing. This frustration might also compound on the general stress found in a typical fighting game match. Most of the debates around these control schemes often revolve around legacy franchises implementing simple controls into games where motion inputs are the norm. Many arguments against simple controls usually revolve around balancing between the two control schemes in a competitive setting, alongside demystifying the difficulty of learning fighting games. In regards to games designed from the ground up with simple controls, one argument I'm most intrigued by is one questioning whether or not simple controls actually succeed in making fighting games easier to learn. The amount of buttons dedicated to normal moves can vary between fighting games, usually between 2 to 6. There are usually 3 variations of these attacks: standing, crouching, and jumping. For some games, there are command normals, normal moves performed by holding a direction in combination with pressing a button. Pressing 2 buttons in conjunction can allow you to grab, performing super moves, or interface with other systems. With the lack of motion inputs, games with simple inputs necessitate the need for a special button. To examine this critique, let's take a look at 2XKO's buttons. This game has 3 attack buttons for light, medium, and heavy attacks. It also has 2 special buttons and a button dedicated for assists or team actions. Special moves are performed by holding a direction and pressing a corresponding button. Critics of this control scheme argue that by having dedicated special move buttons, it increases the amount of buttons needed and the amount a player needs to remember in a match. For example, if Street Fighter VI implemented 2XKO's scheme, the game would need 8 buttons, 6 for normals and 2 for specials. Street Fighter VI does have a simple input mode, however it reduces the amount of normal buttons to 3 like 2XKO's. The critics argue that had 2XKO adopted a traditional motion input scheme, the amount of buttons could be reduced to 4 or even 3 buttons. The theme of these critiques revolve around the idea of offloading difficulty rather than actually reducing it. There's a lot to consider in regards to 2XKO, so I can try and tackle this argument by contrasting it with my current experiences. To start, 2XKO is a tag fighter that allows you to take control of 2 characters. When you pick your characters, you can also pick a stance called the fuse, which adds variations to your strategy. These fuses can allow you to cancel supers into other supers, increase the amount of times you can switch characters, or in my case, allow you to play as only one character. As I was still getting a handle on the controls, I figured I would use the Juggernaut fuse, which let me play with a single empowered character. Now, I didn't have to worry about managing 2 characters at the same time. However, having one less character didn't mean my fights were any easier. You need to defeat both of your opponent's characters in order to win a round in 2XKO. While I had more power and health than my opponent, my lack of experience often offset any advantage I had with the Juggernaut fuse, as they only needed to defeat my character once to score a victory. Just for the record, I was fully aware of this disadvantage going into my matches, and was even having fun messing around with this fuse. Yet, my experience does highlight that not everything that is simpler will automatically make things easier. Looping back to the discussion of special move execution, I wanted to examine this argument through the lens of a genre I have more experience with: platform fighters. The control scheme of the Super Smash Bros. Series might be the progenitor of the simple input method. It's somewhat interesting that the modern input method inherits some of Smash's issues. The button mapping for Smash games and similar platform fighters consists of 2 buttons, one for normal moves and one for special moves. Despite having 2 buttons, there are actually 3 types of attacks. Normal attacks can be performed by pressing a button and lightly moving the control stick, while smash or heavy attacks are performed by quickly tapping the control stick. There's an argument to be made that Smash didn't completely get rid of the difficulty of motion inputs, but rather traded them for the difficulty of mastering analog controls. Many players have difficulty performing tilts and smashes due to having to keep a mental note of how hard they tilt the control stick. There are also issues with overlapping actions. Maybe in an attempt to accommodate traditional fighter veterans, an option to tap the control stick up to jump rather than use a jump button was implemented. The issue with this control scheme comes from attempting to perform an upward, normal, special, or smash attack instead of jumping. The same issue can arise when trying to perform either a forward tilt, a forward smash, or a dash attack. Dash attacks can be performed by attacking while running. The challenge comes from figuring out the timing of a button press to get a dash attack rather than a forward tilt or vice versa. While many players might not find these things challenging, for someone who drifts between different platform fighters constantly, occasionally coming back to Smash can be mildly annoying. While the tap-jump conflict can be resolved by changing an option in a menu, overcoming the intricacies of the analog controls ultimately comes with time and experience. At the same time, many other platform fighters have offered unique solutions. The rivals of Aether and Nick Brawl series give you the option of performing heavy attacks with a separate button. Multiverses is one of the only games I can think of that resolves my issues with the dash attacks. The game has digital controls rather than analog ones, meaning that a difference in stick speed doesn't change the speed of the character. In order to perform a dash attack, you double tap the control stick. The interesting thing about these solutions is that they all revolve around the addition of another button or input method rather than the removal of one. It might be easy for you to assume that I am in agreement with the simple input critics, that I believe that all fighting games need motion inputs to be good. That can't be farther from the truth. There are arguments to be made about how effective simpler control schemes are at making fighting games easier. In reality, regardless of control scheme, there are always hurdles to overcome when learning something new. The easiest game you can think of can be challenging for someone with little game literacy. Just what someone with a platform fighter background can have trouble learning traditional fighters, it can also go both ways. While simple inputs can reduce the mechanical or physical complexity of a fighting game, there's still the challenge of applying knowledge of the game to tense situations. In my experience, both with 2XKO and Guilty Gear Strive, my growth came from prioritizing a few key elements at a time. Rather than trying to learn every move and system, I set aside a few select moves to practice. While simple inputs open the door for more people to learn fighting games, I'm of the belief that any skill can be mastered with time, patience, and the willingness to persevere. There's a world of new challenges that come with this newer control scheme, and to be perfectly honest, I can't wait to take them on.